Welcome to Exploring the Paranormal. Hosted by Heather Leigh, PhD, Exploring the Paranormal offers a new, fresh look into paranormal research. Join Heather as she discusses some of the many haunted locations worldwide, discusses why these locations are haunted, hear from paranormal researchers about their personal experiences at these locations. Additionally, Heather takes a journey into the science behind the paranormal, discussing topics such as thermodynamics and the Heisenberg principle and how they both affect paranormal activity. Now, your host of Exploring the Paranormal, Dr. Heather Leigh.
Good morning, everyone. I am so excited to have you all on the show. I'm glad to be back. Sorry, I've been gone for a while. It has been crazy here. Those of you know we did get hit by the hurricane, but all is good, and I am so excited to be back. As a refresher and a reminder, or for those of you who are watching who don't know who I am, my name's Heather Leigh. I have a PhD in paranormal science from the University or the Institute of Metaphysical and Humanistic Studies. And my ultimate goal in this field is I definitely want to help educate others, along with kind of creating more of a scientific approach to the field. That's something I personally feel we're lacking. I know we can't follow the scientific method 100%, but we can develop something that all investigators use, making it possible for us to share. So that's a little bit more about my ultimate goals in this field. And if you guys have any questions, if I see them pop up in the comments, I'll make sure to answer them. But today's topic, I haven't quite dived into the science of the paranormal yet, but there was a topic that came to mind that I really wanted to make sure that we discussed. And it's these paranormal groups and tours and events. I did have one question. Let me pull it up real quick from someone recently. She had asked me, where'd it go? Okay. She wanted to know, she said, I was recently on vacation and saw that there were ghost tours in the area. I really wanted to go on one, but I was not sure if they would talk about local ghost tours or if it was a Halloween type attraction. And I get that. This time of year, you kind of don't know what you're stumbling into when you sign up for some of these tours. And then she wants to know, do you have any tips when looking to learn more about ghosts in a particular area? One thing I do, I absolutely love ghost tours. However, it is trouble finding a reputable team. I know several reputable teams and groups that do ghost tours, which I'll talk about a little later. But it's kind of one of those, you want to make sure you do your research. And, hi, Jeff, thanks for joining. You want to make sure you do your research. Look into it. Make sure, when you sign up for the tour, you ask questions about it, ask them, what are they going to be talking about? If it's a Halloween type attraction that's just out to scare you kind of thing, they're going to let you know. At least they should most of the time. If it's one of those that they're going to take you out so that way you can explore, learn the history, see the town from a different perspective, they're going to talk to you and let you know that, this is what we do. They won't give you any insights because they're not going to give away the tour because they want you to sign up for it, but they're going to let you know and they're going to talk about what to expect. And then from there, to make sure that they're a reputable team, because there are several teams that I have seen where they just kind of make things up as they go. Or they go off of urban legends, which is fine. I love sharing urban legends. But you need to do some research into it to see if there's any backing to it. And they need to let you know, hey, as legend states, it's X, Y, and Z, but there's been no proof for it. And some teams just stick to that as that's 100% proof. This place is haunted. This is why. And they don't really explain the research or anything that's done behind it. They just pull up with something on the internet and go with it. So you want to ask them how many years they've been, how many years experience do they have? Ask them if they've investigated the locations that they're taking you to. Do they have personal experiences at the locations? Kind of just dig deeper into finding out more about it. So that way you can ensure that it's a tour that's going to be informative, a tour that you're going to enjoy. And I like I said, I've been on several that it's just like, I don't want to say I knew more than the people giving the tour, but I kind of did. I knew some of the stories they were telling were false. And it's just kind of, Yeah, you need to make sure that you are doing your research and making sure that I don't want to say that you need to do research when you're on vacation, but just ask those simple questions and you should be able to pick up on if it's a legitimate tour or not. There are some, I know most of the tours are here in Florida that I know, but you have Larry Lawson, who runs Florida Bureau of Paranormal Investigations. He is a former sheriff's deputy and he runs Indian River Hauntings is the name of the company. They do tours out of Sebastian, Fellsmere, and Vero Beach, and he also hosts several events. This is someone with more than 30 years experience in the field, someone who's dedicated. He also knows how to do his investigation style is similar to how he investigated crimes at the sheriff's department. So that's a great tour if you're ever in Florida to go on. There are the Key West tours. Those are a lot of fun. Those tours are entertaining and educational. And the reason why they're entertaining is because a lot of the Key West tours, they'll dress up and in period attire. And that's more or less to, it's a lot of people say, oh, that's just for entertaining. But little do people know that when you're dressed in period clothing, it attracts paranormal activity, especially if the ghosts are from that time period. So that kind of enhances the experience. And those tours are a lot of fun too. Another one is Mount Dora. That's up in Central Florida, North Central Florida. And I haven't been on that one, but I have talked to them because I interviewed them for a book I'm doing. Who knew there was a lighthouse in the middle of the state with no, just on a small lake that's haunted. So we were talking about that, and I got information from them because they investigated that lighthouse several times, and they actually conduct a tour, Mount Dora ghost tours. And from talking to them, they seem really great. And one of my favorite ones is the Ghost of Gettysburg tour with Mark Nesbitt. He is absolutely amazing. He's written several books. I'm trying to get him to be a guest on the show, but we've been playing tag. But definitely, he's been in the field. He was actually, after my experiences, he was the first person who talked to me and solidified my interest in the field. So he is probably one of the best people that you can get a ghost tour from, and especially if you're into Gettysburg. Which, before I continue, that brings me up to my book recommendation, Blood and Ghost, and I'm sorry about the glare. There we go. Blood and Ghosts. It's by Mark Nesbitt and Catherine Ramslad. And it's basically haunted scene crime investigations. This book is amazing. It not only talks about the history behind it, but it also talks about the use of basically forensic research when it came to doing the paranormal investigations for these locations. They went back in the history. They dug into not just the history of the location, but the actual crime that happened. And it's a very, very interesting book. If anyone gets a chance to read it, I highly recommend it. I have it on my phone, so I'm always glancing at it whenever I'm running errands or something like that. So it's definitely a must read. Now, getting back, I do have a guest coming on in about 20 minutes. She is absolutely amazing. She's going to talk about different ghost tours and events that she's hosting and talk about how and why she got interested in doing it, because she has some very interesting events that are happening. But I do want to go back to the questions that I had. Some tips on taking ghost tours. The first thing is you want to make sure that you wear something comfortable. It's not a fashion show. I mean, if you're on vacation taking a ghost tour, chances are you're never going to see these people again. You want to keep in mind the weather in the area. At night, sometimes like here in Florida right now, it's in the 80s during the daytime, but at night it can drop down into the 60s. So make sure you dress accordingly, because the last thing you want to do is to be shivering the whole way that you're doing this. And you don't really want to wear bulky clothing, because that can restrict your movement and make you uncomfortable. And you are going to be doing, in most of these tours, you are going to be doing a lot of walking. And this is something I learned the hard way. Make sure you wear comfortable athletic shoes, some type of gym shoe or something like that, to make sure that you're comfortable the whole way and you don't develop blisters. I always tell people, and I always bring it, but that's just me, bring a notebook. You write down the notes from the stories, get information, or at least write down the locations you visited, because then when you go home, you can go and do a little bit more research on your own. You want to make sure you bring a camera, but also ask if you're allowed to take photos, because some places and tours don't allow you to take photos. And then if desired, bring a digital recorder with you. And you can ask them, but you should be okay to at least do that, because there's no photo or anything like that. And just have it running in the background. A video camera is another great item to have on the tour if they allow you to bring that. Okay, so like I had mentioned, when you do a ghost tour, you're going to expect a lot of walking. Or I know there is a ghost tour in Vegas that does driving, but so you'll need to expect to sit for a while. So ask when you sign up for the tour, ask if it's going to be driving, sitting, walking, or what's actually going to happen, and also how far you're going to walk, because you want to make sure that everyone in your group that does the tour is capable of walking that far. Okay. Be prepared for some gruesome stories, because a lot of the paranormal activity that's in these tours is believed to be caused from several gruesome events. I mean, think about the tours that happen at the Lizzie Borden house. I'm trying to think of a few others. I mean, Gettysburg, you have the war, you know, Key West, there was pirates and bootleggers and, you know, hangings and all of that. So just be prepared for that. And kind of, if you have kids with you, it's, you know, everybody knows your kids best. Determine if your kids can handle it, if you want them to handle it. And then you could also ask the tour before you pay for it, you know, how scary or how gruesome. Most tours will have ages 12 and up. I've seen some that are 16 and up. And so it just all depends. I mean, and then you also have Zach Bagans Museum, which is 16 and up with a parent to sign the waiver. And I think then it's 18 and up. There's restrictions on it. And I don't think anyone younger than 16 can get in. So you want to make sure that you ask that. And just be prepared. I mean, some tour guides, they'll make, you know, they won't make fun of what happened, but they'll like crack jokes, be entertaining to kind of take away from the gruesomeness, which, you know, it helps, especially if you don't really like that, but you still want to take the ghost tours. And also, one thing I do is I'll check the itinerary. Sometimes they'll tell you at least the locations they're going to. And then I'll do some research beforehand to kind of get an idea of what the locations are and kind of what to expect during the tour. Okay, now how to find a tour. I told you of several ones that I recommend, but you can pretty much go to Google or any search engine and type in, you know, blank city ghost tours, you know, Orlando ghost tours, Pittsburgh ghost tours, you know, Williamsburg has some amazing ghost tours as well. You know, Chicago ghost tours, they're all over the place. Any major city, even some places, because the small town we live in, they have ghost tours as well. And that's basically the best place to start your research for a ghost tour. But then you can also go to any local travel commission, tourist bureau, Chamber of Commerce, historical societies. They all have information if the town has a ghost tour, because chances are the ghost tour has approached them with questions, permission, and all of that. That helps them out. Okay. Some other quick tips real quick is make sure you don't smoke. That's mostly because smoking will interfere with any photos. So if you think you've captured a mist, it's probably the smoking that you've done. Speak loudly, so that way anything that's a whisper can be picked up on audio, whether it's video or audio recording, and it can be misinterpreted if you're especially going to try to capture stuff. And then, but don't speak so loudly that you're yelling over everybody. But you also want to respect others on the tour with you. Oh, hey, Aurora, how are you doing? And just kind of, you know, don't step in front of people when they're trying to take photos or videos. Others may be trying to capture paranormal evidence on their own. Make sure that you respect what they're doing. And any, you know, loud noises and smoke can sometimes be created false positives, such as whispering can also create false positives. So that's basically the different tips that I have. And you just want to make sure that you have fun and enjoy the tour. And it's really, if you haven't been on one, I'm trying to think of the word for it, but if you haven't been on a tour yet, it's a must. I find it very entertaining. It is a great way to learn about the history of the location, because 9 times out of 10, the people doing the ghost tours know the history. They just don't know the paranormal history behind these locations. So it's a lot of fun. Gettysburg, they have candlelight tours that are enjoyable. Several other locations I know have different types of fun and entertaining tours. Oh, yeah. Hi, Aurora. I just saw your comment. We were in the hurricane. We mostly got the wind. We didn't get any, well, we got rain, but we didn't get the rain like the Fort Myers area did. And we didn't have power for several days, but we're now doing really good. Thank you. Thank you for checking in on me. It's been crazy ever since the storm passed, trying to get organized and get things back going. So, but I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Now we have about 15 minutes before my guest joins me. And the one thing I wanted to talk about is I started explaining why you should take a ghost tour. Of course, they're educational. And even though I had said that the ghost tours can have gruesome stories, they're not scary as long as you get a legit one. Because I don't want to say that they're 100% not scary, but it's one of those where if you sign up for the tour and then you're not going to have clowns, monsters, or anything like that jumping out at you, unless it's one that's themed for Halloween. So if you do a legitimate ghost tour, it's not going to be too scary. They'll briefly touch on the paranormal activity. And then if you basically do your research and check the reviews, you can weed out those that add the theatrical touches to their tours. Because I know some people have reported, like Zach Bagan's museum, he'll have people jump out at you at certain points. Don't know if it's true or not. Didn't have that happen. But some people have claimed that that can happen. So you'll see that in reviews and you can determine if you're not looking for something that's scary. Okay, it gives you an opportunity to not only learn about paranormal activity, but to also possibly experience it. There's several opportunities. I mean, ghosts don't come when we call them. So you can't sit there and say, hey, you know, come talk to me. But when you're on the ghost tour and you're not focused on it and you're focused on the leader giving the information and discussing everything, things can happen. It's really interesting how things can happen. And yeah, I've had a lot of strange experiences that I'm not sure are 100% paranormal because I wasn't there to collect paranormal activity. I was there to enjoy the tour. But it seems that when they're talking about someone, they want your attention. And it could even be, I've even joked that, you know, maybe it's the ghost trying to get our attention and tell us, hey, that story is not true. You never know what's going on. Getting hands-on experience. If you're interested in doing paranormal research or going on an investigation, you don't want to just jump in. You don't want to jump in and, you know, buy all the equipment and throw yourself into an investigation, especially if you don't know what you're doing. Or you don't even know if you're going to like it. Going on these tours kind of gives you, you get a sense of what it feels like to be on an investigation, sort of, because you're talking about and exploring these different haunted locations. But it also gives you an opportunity for hands-on experience. There are some events that like Flumery events, and then also my friend that I mentioned over in Vero Beach for Indian River Hauntings. He also does events. And at the end of the event, they have an investigation where if you have equipment, you can bring it with and go on the investigation with everyone else. If you don't have equipment, some of these groups have, I'm trying to think of like dowsing rods or, you know, digital voice recorders or EMF readers, you know, all that stuff. They'll have spare equipment that you guys can use during the investigation part of the event or tour. And it kind of gives you an idea if this is something that you'd want to pursue. You know, because the last thing you want to do is, I mean, it's not a cheap field to be in. So the last thing you want to do is spend a lot of money getting started. And then you go on your first investigation. And I don't want to say that you pretty much run out screaming, but you never go back. You're like, I'm done. And then you're stuck with all this equipment trying to sell or return or get rid of. Okay. Also, going on ghost tours gives you a new perspective on things. They, even if you visited this location 100 times, like I had visited Gettysburg tons of times before I ever took my first ghost tour. And it just kind of opened my eyes to a whole new perspective of Gettysburg. You see these different locations and you're like, you know, so then when you go back to visit them, you're looking for things. Like there's this one building, I can't remember the name of the building, and I'll probably remember the minute I get off the show. But it's a building. It's Mark has reported on it. It's in his actual videos for Ghost of Gettysburg and in his books, and he talks about it on his tours. But there's one building where you go into people have reported taking the elevator to the basement. The minute the doors open, they walk into it's almost like it's just an alternate universe is how I can describe it as. And he talks about how the people who get off the elevator walk into what appears to be a Civil War hospital, a battlefield hospital. And that basement was used as a hospital. So people have said that they step off the elevator, they can smell the rotting flesh, they can smell, they can hear the screams, and, amputations are happening throughout the time, all the moans, and they just, high anxiety. They rush back into the elevator, go upstairs, tell someone. When they return back down, it's just an empty basement used for storage. And there's several stories like that. So when I go to that building, it's like I'm sitting in the elevator like, oh my goodness, please happen to me, please happen to me. And I think because I'm anticipating it, it doesn't happen. But it gives you a whole new look when you actually go back and start exploring these things on your own. It's definitely a great thing to do. I am going to warn you, though, if you view someplace highly, you may never look at it the same again, especially if there is a gruesome story attached to it that you didn't know about. But it's, I always say it's not a bad thing to look at things differently, but some people may not want to have that different perspective of a building. Okay, and I just have a few more, just looking over the comments real quick. Oh, yeah, I haven't been to the ghost tours in Montreal yet. I need to. And yeah, it's one of those things that I want to do. If you want to, Aurora, private message me with the tours, and then I can put up the tours, because I'm going to put, at the end of the show, I'm going to go to my Facebook page and put up the tours there for everyone to see. So Exploring the Paranormal, I think I changed it to podcast or show, Exploring the Paranormal Show. And we'll make sure that we put up a whole bunch of different ghost tours for you guys that I know are legit, or that friends of mine have told me are legit. Okay, so the next thing is it's a unique experience. If you go on vacation and it's the same location year after year after year, I mean, we went to Gettysburg every year and loved it. It never got boring for me. But then when I took that ghost tour, it just made it so much better. You learn about the history. You get to see something new and unique, see the location through other people's eyes. So it's definitely a way to change up a vacation, especially if it's somewhere you go year after year or multiple times and enjoy. Ghost tours also offer learning opportunities. You get to learn about the paranormal activity, the history. I know we've talked about that quite a bit, and also the various different types of things that could cause the hauntings in the area. Even if there's a ghost tour in your nearby, if you don't mind doing a short drive to one, I suggest you do it. You don't have to be on vacation to take a ghost tour. You can go anytime you want. You can learn about the history of your hometown if there's a ghost tour there. It is definitely, it provides an opportunity to see your city as if it's almost a completely new city. Because if you don't know of any of the ghost stories happening in your town, it can definitely open your eyes to a whole bunch of new things. Okay, fun night out. That's the other thing. If you love ghosts, if you love spooky stories, going on a ghost tour is the perfect way to have a fun night out. Tours give you something to do late at night if you're a night owl, and they are a lot of fun. It's just, I know people who will rearrange their vacation schedules to go on ghost tours. Like, I can't go to that location, they don't have a good ghost tour. It's on top of my mind. That's the first thing I look when we go on vacation. When we get there and I see, the ads in the hotels for the different things to do, I'm immediately drawn to whatever ghost stories are happening, whatever haunted type of events that they have there. So it's kind of, it's a driving force for me when it goes on vacation. And it's, everybody laughs at me. It's hysterical. We, out of John's Pass, we do a dolphin cruise quite often. And we'll be driving around the area. And I'm not just writing down, I have a notebook and everything. And it's not even a haunted, dolphin cruise. It's just, a tour. And I'm writing down all the buildings that he's talking about. So that way I can come home and research it to see if they're haunted. And then the next time we take the cruise, I'm like, oh, that place is haunted. That place is haunted. And I'm pointing out all the different haunted locations throughout the area. And it just kind of opens my eyes to a whole new perspective of things. And, even when we took a cruise down to, I think it was Puerto Vallarta, because there was the Cabo San Lucas, Ensenada, and Puerto Vallarta. And when we were in Puerto Vallarta, we took a Jeep tour up into the mountains, and there was this cute little abandoned church. And I was just completely drawn to it. Nothing negative, because I've shared the photos with several people I know who pick up on things, and nothing negatives there, but I definitely was not alone. And, you know, we get back to the ship and I was like, I couldn't wait to see the photos to see if I caught anything. And it was neat because no one else cared about this little church. I was the only one in it and exploring. And it was definitely a fun experience to try to see if it's haunted, but I can't find any information online because it was just this cute little town. I don't even think they had the internet up there. I know they didn't have a doctor, because the doctor, he would come up on weekends at the gazebo once or twice a month. So it was a very small town, but definitely if you go into your vacations thinking about the paranormal, or if you're crazy like I am, and that's always on your mind, you're going to look at things totally, completely different. And taking a ghost tour is just going to enhance that. So while we wait for the next few minutes, I know I see my guest has arrived backstage, and I'm going to talk about one more thing real quick, and then we're going to take a commercial break, and then I'll bring Christie on. When it comes to events, I know most of what I was talking about is tour-wise, but events, they're not the same as the tours. They're going to last longer. Some events I know last 4, 6, 8 hours. And they also have, in the beginning of most tours, you're going to have what I call a mini lecture. You're going to have whether it's a paranormal celebrity or an experienced paranormal researcher, they're going to talk about something paranormal related. I know when I do it, I talk about non-tech tools you can use. I talk about different types of investigations. And everybody has their own thing that they do. And so you're going to have that. Then there's going to usually be a Q&A. And then at the end, there is sometimes, most of the time, not really a guided, well, they do a quick tour of the building, and then you guys go off and do your own investigations with the people who were talking. So before you do an event, make sure you do your research. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and then I'm going to bring on Christie to discuss what she's doing, because I think she's going to have some information that you guys might enjoy about upcoming events and tours. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few moments.
If you're a fan of the paranormal world, then you'll love WLTK-DB Talk Radio. Talk shows bringing you the latest on everything paranormal, cryptozoological, metaphysical, true crime, psychic readings, and more. The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is my favorite part of the show, is when I bring on a guest. And I've known, Christie and I have been friends on Facebook for quite some time. I want to say 3 or 4 years. But it's like with many people on Facebook, we've never met in person, but she has a great attitude, upbeat personality, is never afraid to go out exploring. And she is an event planner in the paranormal field. I'm just going to go over her bio real quick, but I'm going to let her talk more about her experience in just a moment. She originally started college for film production and sound design, and that's when she began her paranormal journey by producing a series of short films called Buried Alive Paranormal. And then from there, this involved to her starting to run events, and people who are new to the paranormal field and just wanting to experience the paranormal field, these events are perfect for them. So I want to thank Christie for joining us, and I'm excited to have you here today.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Well, I had an event last night, so I'm actually tired. I had one last night. I have one tonight, so no rest for the wicked, I suppose.
No, I thought I was busy, and then I see your post, and I'm like, well, okay, I'm not busy at all.
I know. Some days I'm like, can I just sleep? And I'm like, not till November. That's how it works around here. Then I escaped to Florida for 3 months, and nobody sees me. So.
But when you're in Florida, let me know, because I'm here in Lakeland.
Yeah, actually, I actually was like, I figured that out because this morning I was like, wait a minute, is it Eastern time or Central time? Because I am an hour behind. So it is 9:30 here.
Okay.
And I was like, oh no, she's in Florida. So 9:30. That's what I did. I actually might be doing some tours down in Casadega.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, I go there a lot.
So yeah, I love that place. I love the people who own the little museum. They're amazing people. So
Yep. No, I absolutely love that town. Okay, so enough about you and I chatting back and forth.
Sounds good.
I want you to start off because I didn't read your whole bio and there was a lot of great information in there. Do you mind telling everybody more a little bit about you and what got you started in the paranormal field?
You know, I've always been kind of interested in paranormal stuff. But I don't know, like 6 years ago now, I think it was, a friend of mine was like, I'm going to the Bliska house. You want to go? And I'm like, yeah. And then it all just kind of happened. So to be honest with you, I don't even understand how it evolved into what it did, but it did. And I think that means that I'm on the right path because usually that's how it happens. It just does. So I don't know. That's really it. It's not some grand story. It just happened. But I did. I actually went to school for film production. And so when there's not a whole lot out there about how to like get a job doing that. They're just kind of like, oh, you have a degree, goodbye. And so I just started making my own content, and it just happened to be paranormal. And then Nick Groff picked it up for VidiSpace, and it was on Amazon Prime. And since then, video shut down. So I just recently put it all back up on my YouTube. And I've been working with a couple other people now because they want to make a reality series about my life. Whether it will happen or not, I don't know. I just know there's some really cool people working on it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And that's what people don't realize is there's a lot of behind the scenes work that they don't even get to see.
Yeah. And that's basically the premise of it all, is like, not just that, but how my life in general, because some people have seen the videos of my background and people have made documentaries on it and things. And so my life in general and how it's led to here and how that affects this and, all kinds of other crazy stuff. So we'll see what happens. I don't know. I'm still half awake.
No problem. Have some more coffee.
Right here.
I have mine next to me too. So I know you said everything evolved on its own, which I completely understand because that's what kind of happened with me. I've been researching the paranormal field for more than 30 years, but I called myself a closeted investigator because back then you didn't talk about it. And then all of a sudden, like 6 or 7 years ago, it just started evolving and one thing led to another and it just kept flowing. So how do you think that this kind of developed into your starting to host events?
So I actually, I'm friends with the people. They're from Apex Paranormal, and they run a lot of this stuff in like Missouri and Kansas. And that friendship kind of evolved because they already did events. And a few years ago, they had their volunteers back out on an event. And so he put up a post like, hey, we need some help like ASAP. I live 2.5 hours away, but I was like, I'll do it. So I showed up there, and the next thing you know, I was working for the same company they were working for. Then they quit that company, and then I was still working for that company. But I didn't like the way that company was treating locations, and I didn't like the way they were treating guests. I just did not like the way it was run at all. I felt like it could be done better. But working through there, I've met so many people. I know people all over the country, location owners. And so a couple of them specifically have said, will you do stuff here? Will you do stuff here? And I think all the way back to when I very first started, I was very involved with Squirrel Cage Jail. And I started a lot of stuff there, their candlelight tours and things, just because it was fun. And so to this day, Squirrel Cage is like, well, you're the one who did a lot of this. And I'm like, oh, I did. So I realized I had this ability to help people in a different kind of a way. And so I was like, you know what, let's just start doing it. So that's kind of how it evolved to this. So to me now, it's all about helping the locations, the charity events that we do, go to local charities, animal shelters. And there's a battered women's shelter. I'm actually at a location right now that we did a charity event for the local women's shelter. So all kinds of stuff.
Cool. That's one thing I love about the paranormal field is we're able to give back to the community. and do so much more for the community when people who, you know, I don't really want to say snub their noses up at it, but they're like, oh, paranormal, I'm not going to do that. But they don't realize how much fun they are and how much good we can do just by hosting these events.
Yeah, I'm actually just started. So in Nebraska City, it's the Seven Sisters Road, and there's like this whole tale that goes with it. And it's been very taboo for a long time. Like, oh, you can't go there. You're going to get shot, blah, 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 blah. Well, people have been begging to go there. So, and I know people trespass there. So finally, I just went and talked to all the people and everybody, and the people who matter in the situation that had to give the okay did. So they gave me, you know, to be able to go do it. But the outlash from some people, it's very few. This event has, in 2 days, this event was shared almost 400 times. I've sold like 54 tickets in 2 days, you know, so I mean, it's blowing up, which is great. But these people who've been mad about it, I'm like, message me, let's talk. And so far, every single one is like, oh, I see what you're doing. And now they're supporting me. It's like, yes, like, yeah, I make some money off of it, but you know what? This benefits you. It benefits your town. This is going to stop the trespassing because now people can go, and I can control it. You know, I mean, there's a lot of good that comes from it. They just have to see it. So,
yeah. And what can people expect from your events? I know the last half hour I've been talking about some of the events and tours that I've taken and why people should take tours, because I highly recommend it, even if you're not into the paranormal field. But can you kind of maybe describe how your events go?
Yeah, so I have a couple of different kinds of events. The bigger ones are usually overnight. So those consist of, I try to keep it to 30 people, and usually only 16 of those tickets are overnights. I believe that the smaller the group is, the better the experience is. If a location is smaller, I'll always knock it down some. Very rarely do I ever go over 30. I mean, it'd have to be like Waverly for me to go over 30 people. So usually everybody gets there. We talk a little bit about who I am, who the owner is, you know, what the building is, some of the history, some of the experiences there. If there's enough ticket holders, we'll split up into 2 groups. And then we spend an hour. There's like 3 different locations that we set up throughout with like equipment and stuff. We'll spend an hour at each one, taking a break in between the first 2. And then after that, we take a little break again. And then they kind of free roam until about 2 a.m. That's when the 2 a.m. ticket holders leave, and then the overnight people are there. I'm usually in bed by like 3 or 4. If nobody wants to, you know, because I'm like, hey, you know, I have extra equipment, I have stuff people can use, or they're free to ask myself or whoever's running the event with me, like, hey, will you go here and do this? Can we do that? So typically I find the overnight people, they're so excited to stay overnight. I've never done this. And then, you know, like 15 minutes into the overnight part, they're like, we're going home. Okay. But they keep trying until they stay. So those are the overnights. We do have ones that just last till 2 a.m. So of course it's everything except the overnight, and then the candlelight tours. So right now I'm doing Seven Sisters Road and Hotel Josephine. And they're basically, we're going to take actually I have them sitting right here. Because most people don't want fire in their building. I was getting these ready for tonight. So these little candles are little LEDs. Imagine like 16 people walking down a dark road with just this for light. It looks cool, and it's a lot of fun. So
no, the last ghost tour I took 30 years ago was in Gettysburg when they did their they still do their candlelight tours, but now they use those. But back then it was the actual candle, and I just kept burning my and from the wax dripping off. And
yeah, we can't go there. Someone will probably sue me. I'm like, caution hot. It's McDonald's here.
No, exactly.
Now we need to sponsor me. I said their name.
Just keep throwing it out there. Eventually they'll sponsor you.
I know, right? I'm trying. Somebody, please.
Yeah. They're like, we need to pay her if she keeps mentioning us. No.
I know, right? I'm going to do with Ford, because what I really need is a car. Right. I'm 3 years old. I put 150,000 miles on that thing doing this stuff. So,
and car shopping. I mean, I know this is totally off topic, but car shopping is no fun. We just did it last week because when I was driving to Tampa, our car started acting up, and I was like, I'm not driving back and forth to Tampa if the car is going to break down on me.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Forget that. No way.
So it's, you know, so we went and we did that. It's an all-day affair.
Yep. I don't want to do it.
Yeah, that's absolutely no fun. So back on topic, what kind of tips can you offer people to when they take ghost tours? I know some tips that I had offered was to ask questions. Of course, you always want to ask a lot of questions, and wear comfortable clothing.
Yeah, I do. I actually, this is probably going to sound really crappy, but the number one thing that you should advice I can give you is make sure it's a real tour. I can't tell you, I have seen people, I'm doing an event and put out tickets, but what they're doing is one, they're just trying to pay for their self to be there. And then they don't care. Like you show up, it's not an actual event. And for new people, that's really bad. That's not what you want to do. Not only that, but I've known people to say they're doing events. They sell all these tickets. People show up at the location and there was never an event planned. So if you have questions, always contact the location owner because there are a lot of scams out there. So
I was given tips earlier on how to find a legit tour, and that was one of them. I didn't even think of mentioning that, to actually contact the location.
Yeah. I have actually seen it happen here with Stephanie, where somebody had done that. More recently, the Velisca house, I've had it happen. And I'm pretty good at catching it because I know the location so well that I'm like, yeah, I know they wouldn't allow it. Like Velisca, the house is so small, they don't do events because of that. And so I just immediately messaged Johnny, who runs it. And I'm like, hey, just FYI, you know. So he's like, well, we'll keep an eye on it. I don't think that ever happened. Like the event never, you know, tickets never sold or anything. So it wasn't an issue, but you know, I look out for them all. But other things, when you do these events, if you have equipment, you should always bring it. I always allow people to use equipment. If a place only allows you to use their equipment, 90% of the time it's rigged. Just FYI. I've seen that several times too. Just come and be ready to be open-minded and have a good time, and you know, expect nothing. You know, hope for the best and expect nothing.
Yeah, that should be number one. That's another one I should add to my list of.
Yeah,
I more went into the, you know, like all the different things on making sure, you know, how to make sure that it's not too, because a lot of people I've talked to recently, they said that they've taken the ghost tours and they're Halloween themed, and it's they're walking down a dark path and all of a sudden someone jumps out at them, and they're like, that's not what you want on a ghost tour.
No, and I think that's what some people are expecting for Seven Sisters Road. And I'm like, someone said, oh, she's probably setting up Halloween props. And I'm like, no, no, we're going to go out there and look for this beast with glowing red eyes that everyone talked about. Yeah, that's going to be what jumps out at you, if anything, because it ain't going to be me. Yeah. So I'm like, this is pretty valid. So we'll see. I'm excited to see how people react to this.
And I'm 100% sure that you don't do it, but what are your thoughts on these teams that go out there and do the, you know, tours, but fake the activity?
I just think it's, you know, if you make it known, I want to say, like, if you know that it's that kind of a haunted house, that's one thing. But to fake activity to get, I mean, you're destroying the point of all this. You know, the point of this is to prove that it's real. I mean, there's nothing better to me than watching somebody who is a non-believer come in and have something happen to them, and it's real and it's genuine. And now they're like, holy crap, it is there. And you're like, duh. But, you know, when people fake evidence and when they fake this stuff, it's destroying the integrity of all of it. I mean, this, aside from, you know, being an event planner, I'm an investigator. I do believe in it and I want answers. And, you know, the things people don't necessarily see me do are when I'm out with other team members or going places and doing actual scientific stuff and, like, you know, trying to figure out if it's real or not. I do investigations completely alone, live on camera, because I'm like, then you can see that it isn't faked. That's the extreme that you have to go to now, just so people know that it's real, and it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah, because I had years ago, my cousin had gone on a paranormal tour, and they're like, check out this photo, and it was like an orb. But if you know, upon analyzing the photo more, you could see it had a light source. Like there was, you know, just dimly behind it, there was a flashlight behind it, but they did a good job hiding this person in the dark. So if you're there doing the tour, you wouldn't know. And also they kept saying they were going through a cemetery and they kept hearing, you know, what you would expect in a haunted house, the woo. I'm like, ghosts don't do that.
No, they don't.
I'm like the tour you went on is for entertainment. I mean, it's entertaining and it's fun to do, but it just I don't even know. I mean, we've even run across, and I'm sure you have too, where we get cases that come to us and they show us photos. And when we analyze the photos that another team has taken, and this team has told them they have a demon in their house, it's always a demon. I don't get why.
So ridiculous.
The photos are faked.
Yeah.
So the team went into on a residential investigation, faked the photos to make this person feel like they're being haunted. And I just, that's like my biggest pet peeve in this field.
That is a horrible thing to do to a person, because you don't, why would you want someone to be scared to be in their own home?
Exactly.
It's so stupid. And I will say that I've done a couple of investigations where I've actually had things happen. I have left with bruises before, and that was from Waverly. But the thing is I realized, I was like, it didn't hurt. Right. Even after fact, when I had the bruise, it didn't hurt. The bruise, when you pushed on it, did not hurt. And I thought to myself, you know, when you think about energy and like the transfer of energy, just, you know, when you get the static electricity and you shock yourself, like, is something intentionally trying to hurt you? No, it's just a transfer of energy. And so I started thinking, I bet you any money, they're not trying to hurt anybody. They're just trying to touch you or get your attention. And that is a side effect of the energy being transferred. It's not malicious, you know? So
yeah, it's interesting what's out there. So that brings me to my next question is, if someone goes on a ghost tour or attends an event, what, and they get nothing, because, you know, you can't get I know Aurora had commented earlier, you can't get ghosts to command or perform on, you know, command. How do you encourage them to come back or to not complain that it was such a bad experience because they had no activity?
Well, sometimes that's going to happen no matter what you do. Even if you had things being thrown at you, people will be like, it ain't real. You know, so, I mean, there's just going to be those people, and it's like, okay, well, maybe this isn't for you, and that's fine. You know, you don't have to like it. You don't have to, you know, be happy with it. That's just some people. I have found that most people who do this kind of stuff are already aware that you can't make it happen. But a lot of times if they're really questioning and I don't know, I'll show them a bunch of evidence that I have, whether it's from that location or elsewhere. And I'll say, you know what, it took a few times before something happened to me too. Like, you know, it's about opening your mind in the correct way and paying attention in the correct way. I'm like, I don't know about you, but if someone's doubting everything about me, I'm not going to want to pay any attention to them either. I'm just gonna be like, whatever, dude. You know, so it's more of, you know, saying, hey, look, this stuff does happen. The only way you're going to believe it is if you experience it. And the only way you're going to experience is if you don't give up. Right.
Yeah. So. And the open-minded part is a big thing, because I've noticed that when we've done investigations as a group, those that are, it seems to me more of the skeptics and those that are closed-minded are the ones who have less experiences.
Yeah, they do.
You know, like you said, I'm not going to sit there and prove myself to you if you're not going to believe me.
Exactly. You know, I mean, and that's the thing. They don't want to believe, so therefore they won't. Right. You know, I mean, you could literally have something thrown at their face in you know, a dungeon with no windows, and they'd be like, it was the wind. You know, there's always going to be something, you know, and I'm a super skeptic. Like I'm, you know, it's funny because here I'm at McAteer Villa, and I'm the owner of this place. She's Stephanie. She's my best friend. And so she's always like, Christie, it's paranormal. Shut up. Because I'm like, well, it could have been this or it could have been that. So we just kind of joke around and banter like that. But it makes me realize that I question everything until I don't have a viable answer. And then I'm like, it may not even be ghosts. It may just be something I don't know. Right. So. Yeah,
that's exactly, that's how I do it. And that's how most paranormal investigators should do it, because on the other end of the spectrum, you have the people who want to believe so bad. And I personally feel that those who want to believe so bad are just as bad as not skeptics, but those who don't believe, because every little thing is paranormal, even if it's not. Yeah. Have you had any experiences on a tour where someone, I had it on one of the tours that I did, and they kept running to me every time they shot a photo. Is that a ghost? Is that a ghost?
Yeah. And that's the thing. People who don't know, they don't know. And it's like, I'm always happy for people who want to ask questions and understand. And, you know, I do too. I have a lot of questions about like psychics and people who say they do this and say they do that. And the problem I have found that becomes when you ask the question, well, how do you know you're really doing that? They take it as offensive. And I'm like, no, that's not why I'm asking the question. Right. I'm asking because I want to know. So there are a few good people that I'm friends with, you know, where I've been able to ask those questions and they give me viable answers. I'm like, okay, I may not believe it, but I understand why you're saying what you're saying. And I trust you as a person. If that's how you feel, then okay, good enough. It doesn't need to be proven to me. It needs to be proven to themselves,
Right.
and that's what counts. So
yeah, because it's interesting. And getting back on that one is when someone brings you evidence that they think they've captured, what's the most interesting piece of evidence that a guest on your tour has captured?
Gosh, a lot of new beginners, new people. So I get a lot of orb pictures. Yeah, I have seen where actually in this location where some people have taken some photos, and there's actually faces in the mirrors here. I've seen where people have taken photos and, there's actually a shadow figure. I mean, I just see so much stuff. And, again, with the tours and with the people there, sometimes I'm like, well, maybe it was somebody else. But a lot of times, if it is legit, just because you're like, well, there was nobody down there. I mean, I'm running the show. I know who's where for the most part. And there, I want to say it was here too. This place is super haunted. Like the villa, hands down. It never, I mean, last night was a slow night and we still had activity. So we'll just put that there. But we were here with Brian and Rochelle from Ghost Hunters. And somebody put their backpack on a chair upstairs. And like 20 minutes later, it was thrown off the couch. And the thing about that is that we have, she has cameras all over. So we were able to go back and watch it because we're like, well, what if it just was heavy and it fell over? But it clearly couldn't have done that. It just was thrown off the couch. And this was just during an event. So, all kinds of cool stuff.
And it doesn't have to be on a tour or an event that you've done, but what's the most interesting paranormal thing that's happened to you?
So crazy story. So I was actually on Destination Fear telling this story. This is last season, because they heard about it and they were like, you want to be on? I'm like, okay. Which was awesome. But I am not one of those, like, I don't claim to be psychic. I don't claim to be anything but just a normal person. Like I don't do any of that. But when we were there, when we got there, and Edinburgh's my favorite place. And I'm just, my friend was there and I'm just we're kind of walking around and the night's progressing. And I kept telling my friend, I'm like, hey, there's literally somebody here with us. Like, I just feel like something's been following me around the whole night. I was so uneasy and the anxiety kept building and building. And at one point we're down in the basement, which kind of goes around this like whole wall. And so we get to like midpoint and I'm like, my friend was like, hey, I feel like there's other people here. And I'm like, I'm telling you that. And right then we get a EVP that says there's a second. And so I'm like, I told you, and we keep walking and this anxiety is building. By the time we get to the stairs to go out, I just started yelling at him. I'm like, I don't know what you're thinking about, like just freaking out. And I don't even know why. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm done now. I've never done that. I'm always like this, like, yay, la, la, la. It takes a lot to get me mad, a lot to get me upset. I have no idea. But it was all on film. And so then I'm watching, I think I apologized to him for well over a year. Like, I'm still so sorry for that because I don't know. And so I had gone outside and then I edited all the videos. And so later when I was watching it, I heard them freaking out because of how I was acting. They were like, she's never done that. I don't even know, and I had worked with, one of them for quite a couple of them that were there that night. I worked with them for years. They know me well. And so to be like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I mean, so that's kind of odd. But the night progressed and I was like, well, let's go back down there because why not? And so I was back down there and I could just hear, get out, get out, get out, get out. And so out I went. So then I was like, let's try upstairs. We go upstairs and again, caught on camera, something jumped out of a closet and yelled in my ear and we caught it. So then I went back there by myself and nothing happened.
And that's the hard part is catching it. Cause it's like, I have so many experiences that of course they happen when the cameras are off. And the fact that you were able to catch it is just absolutely amazing. And that's the hardest part with this field.
Yeah, I've learned to always keep a camera running. I always have 3 or 4 cameras running if I'm trying to film something, at least like minimal, because you just never know. I mean, and that's the hardest part, I think, but that's also the filmmaker in me. Like, you got one shot to get this footage. You've got one night to get it. So you better get as much as you can.
Right.
If something goes bad, you better have a backup. So that's where that comes in.
Yeah. No, most of the time it's at night when we're sleeping at a location.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have any cameras running at night while we're sleeping. And it's like, that's when it all happens.
I film myself sleeping now. I actually did a solo investigation at Beatty Mansion out in St. Joseph, Missouri, and that place is pretty crazy. But someone was like, oh, you can't. There were a lot of people. You're never going to make it. You're going to die. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whatever. So I stayed there for 17 hours by myself. I filmed myself sleeping. I'm like, if you ever doubt that I did this, here you go.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then that brings me to the thing. A lot of people say that you never want to investigate alone. And I know I've been watching you for a couple of years now, and you'll go to locations alone. Why? And what do you say to people who say you shouldn't do that because you should never be alone?
Well, so here's the thing. So I started thinking about just the fact that people will debunk everything you do, right? You know, like no matter what, how good your evidence is, no matter what, because people make stuff up, people lie. Everybody is reaching for that fame. But the problem is the people who are reaching for actual scientific whatever, they're not heard anymore. And that's, to me, that's sad. And so I started thinking about that. I was like, well, if I do this by myself, one, I'm eliminating a whole lot of it could be this, it could be that. If I'm live and people know I'm the only person there and the doors are locked, they know that when something happens, they know where I'm at. They know what I did. They're seeing everything I do. There's no doubt that it wasn't me or another person. So that was kind of the main thing. It was more or less like, look, this is really happening. And then the second reason that I'm doing is because I feel like when you have other people there, whatever, you are less vulnerable. And I feel like when you open yourself up and you become more vulnerable, you're more willing to get stuff to happen. You're more willing to get a reaction because it makes, I mean, one-on-one with a person is more comfortable than two-on-one. And I don't think we look at spirits as people a lot of time. We look at them as some different entity, and I'm like, no, they're people. How would you prefer it to be? That's how you need to be. I will say I have a guard. I always have someone guarding the perimeter where I'm at.
That was my next question.
I've had people try to break in. One of them, I was doing this live in it's a Chicago Alton hotel. And I'm upstairs completely by myself. And the people on the live, it's like, I hear a guy talking and I'm like, I hear it too. But it was super loud. I'm like, okay, I think that might be someone. So I look outside. Sure enough, there's a guy walking through the yard. And I'm like, Shannon's out there watching. She'll deal with whatever it is. Then I hear it again. I'm like, I look out and Shannon and this guy are talking. And then I was like, oh, they're good. They got it, whatever. So as I'm leaving, Shannon's like, so you were surrounded by about 20 cops ready to bust in with guns drawn because they thought you broke it. That's scary. Yeah, I was like, that would have been the scariest moment of my life, I think. So,
but it would have made for great TV.
Right? Everybody would have been like, "What's going on? I don't know. I swear I'm not doing drugs." No.
And that's so, like you had said, you always also want to get permission. And I'm sure you had permission there, but of course they didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't. I actually do tours for them, like during October. I'm down there running tour. I have a key to the building, for Christ's sake, and the alarm code. So I mean, it's pretty legit. It's not. Yeah, I don't ever break in anywhere. I mean, I'll do a lot of the like urbexing where it's going to abandoned places and photographing, but I do my best to be courteous and respectful. So
yeah, and it's like you had said, the one-on-one communication, and then if you're courteous and respectful, they're going to be more likely to talk to you. So,
exactly.
I do that a lot in investigations, and people just think I'm quiet and I don't want to participate, but I'll find a quiet corner and I'll just sit there and talk, and hey, this is about me, this is my life, if you want to come talk to me. And I seem to get more interaction doing that than actually wandering the whole building.
Exactly. Well, it's funny because I always tell people, I'm like, if I walked into your house right now, it's like, come at me, bro. You're either hitting me in the face with a frying pan or you're hiding in the closet calling 911. Either one of those is not something you want. But if I walk in and I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm here to be your friend and hang out and let's laugh and joke around. you're going to be like, yeah, let's go. Let's do this. I have some whiskey and, you know, it just makes sense. You know,
Right.
That's all.
And you brought up whiskey, and that reminds me of, did I see that you're doing the Drunken Oracles?
Yes, that's me. Yes, that is this one right here.
Share a little bit more about that one, because that was pretty interesting the one night.
It's interesting every night. The problem is I don't remember it. No, so Drunken Oracle started during COVID because I was watching my friends, one, die. I lost a lot of friends. My kids lost a couple of friends, and people were getting very depressed. They were at home. They couldn't, you know, scared, lonely. I mean, there was just so much heartache going on. And my friend Keith, who does it with me, I'm like, Keith, look at, like, this is horrible. Like, let's do something. We need to do something. We need to fix this. And so I was like, you know what? Let's get drunk and read tarot. I don't even know anything about tarot. I never looked at a tarot card in my life, let alone read tarot. And he was like, let's do it. So we got on and we did it. And I think it lasted 4 hours. But it's so popular. I mean, I go to conventions and people are like, hey, you're doing Drunken Oracle. We're actually got invited to Scarefest this year coming up in a couple weeks. That will be where the next Drunken Oracle is. So they're giving us a little spot in the bar because of the alcohol. We have to do it in the bar, but they want us to do it live during the convention. So we're like, yes. As long as y'all drive us back to the hotel, that's a yes. What y'all don't know is we end the show because I'm like, I'm drunk, going to the bar. And it's in a tiny little town. So the bar is like right there. I'm really good friends with the owners, and the videos they send me the next day, I'm like, did I really do that? They're like, yes. So I'm famous here for being drunk. Small town America.
And I find it so funny because I like how you do things differently, because it's, you know, because I've always done, you know, the behind the scenes work and researching. And it wasn't until recently that I actually started doing investigations. And every time I would talk to a team or talk to somebody, they're constantly, you know, it's one of those things where they're constantly saying, you know, don't do it drunk, don't do this drunk, don't deal with metaphysical if you're intoxicated, don't go to places alone, you know, all those things. And you're breaking the mold, I guess you would say, and doing everything you're told not to do, but it's making it interesting.
That's my life. You know, and that's the thing is, like, who set these rules? That's who set these rules, and who said, you know, just like if you're making money in the paranormal, guess what? That's my job and I love it. Right. But I'm not doing anything to disrespect anybody. You know, even Drunken Oracle, before we start, we have a disclaimer: don't take our advice. We're drinking. Right. This is for fun. This is lighthearted. You know, I think stating your purpose and why you're doing things and your intent has a lot to do with it. But unfortunately, I think people are just like, you know, they turn their nose up at you and they give you a hard time simply because they didn't think of it first, or they weren't brave enough, or they weren't, you know, able to, whatever the case may be. I think a lot of times it comes down to jealousy. And I'm like, you don't have to be jealous. Just come and be my friend. Right. Let's hang out. Let's have fun. Let's do this together. You know, you don't have to be jealous. We can just be friends.
Right. Yeah. You know? And that's the hardest part in this field. I mean, I've lost so many friends because they didn't like where I was going. You know, they're like, you know, she's moving faster than I am. I need to, you know, stop talking to her. But it's like, well, you know, if you continue talking and making friends with people, it opens more doors.
It does. Yes. Well, and, you know, I point out, you know, there's so much competition. I'm like, what are you competing for? The last I checked, I can watch 72 paranormal shows, you know, just things like that. There's no need to be competitive. Myself and Elijah, who runs Apex, he runs events. And then I'm friends with Ray Savino, who runs Flammary, and he has, like, you know, Mustafa and all of them. And the three of us are not in competition. Like, I'll call him up and say, hey, do you want to do an event here with so-and-so, or do you want? And so we're working together. Recently, I started working with Richard Estep, who's written how many books. We started doing charity events. You know, he's like, I want to do events, but you know how to put them together. Well, let's work on it. You know, there's no, you know, if you come into this little circle and you're competing, you're not going to do very well, because we're like, well, we ain't got time for you. And that's just it.
Yeah, I've been working with Ray too, and I actually have a call with him later today to set something up.
Well, tell him I said hello. I love him. I absolutely adore him. So
yeah, I was supposed to do an event a couple weeks ago up in Virginia with him, but I had some knee problems and I couldn't fly to get there, so I had to miss it. So
I have never met him in person, and I just want to give him a big old hug.
He reminds me of a big old teddy bear.
Yeah, he totally is. He is so sweet. I just adore him. So he's been a really good friend. I think we've both been that to each other, so it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's this field. I've met so many people that I've become great friends with, and it's just sad, like you said, the competition. It's like, what are we competing for? We all want to find answers. So yeah. I don't understand it.
And I have noticed that the people I hear the most that are the worst people ever, they're horrible, blah, they're usually the best people. So I just decided, and I tell people, I'm like, you know what? I get you and so-and-so don't get along, and that's fine. But I don't know them, and this person's never done anything to me. So until they do, they have a pass with me. Like, I'm not going to judge based on what other people say. I just won't. And I have so many friends because of that. And all the ones that have those falling outs, they respect that, because you either do or I ain't got time for you. It's like, I have so much going on. I don't have time to deal with the petty whatever. I'm a lover, not a fighter. And that's
exactly. Yep. And that's the best way to get not only evidence, but into locations. Because, locations aren't going to want to have someone who they see on YouTube, like you said, screaming.
Exactly.
I know some of these, even some of these TV shows, I've heard stories with living in Vegas for so many years that locations won't even let regular paranormal teams in because the TV show experience they had ruined it for them.
Yeah. It's terrible that it's like that. I watch these people just, I just want it to go back to being real. And I think they keep trying to exaggerate it more and more and more. But unfortunately, that's causing it to be worse and worse and worse. What do they have, like possessed pets now? Like, what? Maybe you should just feed your animal and not keep it locked in a cage.
Right. Don't raise it to be aggressive.
Exactly. Like I'm waiting for possessed kids. Which is more like, how about you just parent correctly? I'm just saying, so.
Yeah. And it's tough because and that's what these shows make. I mean, personally, I feel they make it harder for us because, it is possible for an animal to be possessed, and children to be possessed, but these shows make it to where everyone thinks every little thing is making it, just like everything's a demon now.
Yeah.
Orbs are real.
Yes. And I honestly haven't really talked much about this a lot because the field that I'm in, I'm not really sure how it would be. Either they're going to be like, oh, I'd make it a big deal, which I don't want it to be. Or they're going to call me an idiot. I don't know. But my marriage was really bad. And I've thought for a long time before I did any of this that there was some kind of possession going on. And people ask me, the people that know, well, why do you believe that? I'm like, well, he put a cross on and it burned into his chest, but I can't prove that. I have no proof. He committed suicide 20 years ago. There is no proof of any of that. I can't prove any of it. It's like, it's either my word or not at all. And there's a whole lot of other things that go with it. But I'm not about to just put it out there and be like, oh, well, you have to believe me because I said so. I can't prove any of it, so.
That's the hard part too, because and we have to look at that in our field. I came down with in 2018, I was stage 5 kidney failure, like overnight. And then it turned around on its own. And now I'm stage 2 and they never did surgery. They never did medications. It was just, they don't know why it happened.
That's crazy.
And, and so many people get sick. And if there's no explanation scientifically, where else does your mind go, being the field that we're in?
Exactly. You always have to question those things, but, and that's the thing. We talk so much about paranormal and this and that, but I'm like, just spiritually on your own, like as a person on your own, why wait until you're no longer in a body? Like concentrate on that now. Meditation is amazing. After, I just can't even tell you the amount of just crazy stuff that I've been through. I've had to go through extensive therapy because of it. I was abused very, very badly. And so I had to go through all this therapy and stuff like that. And of course they're like, take this pill and take that pill. And I was like, no. Instead I meditated. I started spending more time in nature. I started swimming. Swimming was a huge factor in healing my body, just you know, physically, and all those things naturally. Because now people who do know the story, they're just like, "How are you okay?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Because I did it the correct way." And so now I help people do the same thing. I find people are like, I'm like a magnet, you know. Oh, I've been
Mhm.
through hard this, and they find me. I've spent many times in haunted locations and scary basements where somebody just starts crying and telling me their life story, and now, you know, friends
Right.
and helping them through and things like that. So, but
Mhm.
that's what we need to work on is here and now more than anything.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it's amazing how people feel comfortable talking to, you know, us as paranormal researchers. We did an event in Orlando recently, and in the middle of the crowd, someone just spoke up about his tragic past. And I know Chris, who I was with, he ended up counseling the guy after we were done. I mean, this was during one of our lectures, and it's just amazing how people feel comfortable enough to open up to us.
it's because we're the weirdos.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I think all of these people, they're the nerds and the weirdos and the misfits and the people who don't fit in. And here they have found this community where everybody's open and accepting, and you can be somebody, and you are somebody, and you can find people, you know. And then I get so annoyed with it because then they turn around and it's like, well, you're doing better than me, so you're a piece of crap. I go, what? No.
Yeah.
You didn't like being treated like that, so don't treat others like that.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. No, people come to us because their stories can't be half as crazy of what we've already heard or experienced.
Tell me about it. I'm topping the list on that one. I'll tell you something.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting field.
Mhm. I'm just not afraid of anything anymore. It's like, yeah, and people are you scared? No. How do you sleep in these places? CBD oil. It's a
Mhm.
very simple answer. I need to sleep, so I do. That's how this works.
Yeah. Yeah. I've only had one experience that put chills down my spine, and then I turned around and realized I was alone. So I kind of was like, I didn't run out of the building, but I like kind of ran, you know, speed walked over to where the rest of the group was.
Where was that at?
It was at a location in Vegas. We were just doing an investigation, and I was playing around with the obelisk. And I didn't believe in the obelisk at all. And I didn't realize, because I'm just watching it and I'm talking and it's not doing anything. And the rest of the group I was with stopped. And I had continued walking and turned a corner. And the minute I turned that corner, it was death, devil, demon, sacrifice. Came on the obelisk. And I'm like,
nope.
well, I said, who are you going to sacrifice? And then it said, you. And I felt a finger run from the bottom of my neck down to my lower back. And I'm like, nope, I'm done.
I'm not going to lie. When I'm a ghost, I'm doing that to people.
I'm going to mess with people too. It's like, I've seen the memes where it's like, when I die, I have a list.
I know, right?
I have a list
For me,
of
it's
people.
like all my closest friends. Why? Because that's how I am now. Why would I change?
Exactly. So we still have about 15 minutes. Real quick before we close out, do you have any tips for new investigators wanting to research the field, or someone who has no paranormal experience whatsoever that wants to suddenly start?
I do think that people who want to do this or are interested, I mean, to be honest with you, I started in cemeteries, you know, like years ago when I was younger. Unsolved mysteries, the ghost ones, and then that was like my life. But, you know, going to the events, especially the candlelight tours, those are always good for beginners. And I try to gear it more towards people who are, you know, getting into it. One, it's costly to rent out a place by yourself. And if you're not comfortable staying overnight there, then why pay the money yet, you know? So going to the candlelight tours, going to the events where there's other people there, those are always really good options, because not only are you, you know, learning about about the field and location, but you're meeting people, and you're meeting like-minded people who are interested. And if I could tell you the amount of people that have come for the first time and been like, I'm so happy that I can talk to this about this without being ridiculed. And that's a huge thing. So those people will, you know, become your friends, and they become your family. And, you know, it's a spiritual journey 100%. So,
And then actually, while you were talking, brought up a thing with money. One thing I hear all the time is a lot of paranormal investigators say that they don't want to pay to play. What are your thoughts on that? Because these locations need to put the lights on somehow.
You know, and that's the thing. That is the thing. Like, you know, people talk about how expensive it is. I'm like, do you know how expensive it is to keep just the house that I'm sitting in running? I have watched her, you know, especially when you get started and when you're not that well known. It has taken her 3 years to start booking out every single night. And this place is well taken care of. The electric bill is ridiculous, especially during the summer when she's running the AC. The house itself, the mortgage is pretty. It's a pretty good mortgage, but there is so much that goes in, down to the toilet paper for people. And she always has coffee and sodas and waters. And, you know, I mean, just it's ridiculous the amount of money that goes into this. A lot of places that are just run down and not even taken care of like this, a lot of times they're spending even more because they have fire people coming at them and the city's coming at them. And they have, you know, they have all these codes they have to meet. So there's so much that goes into it, and restoring these old buildings is not cheap. And then if you're part of the Federal Historical Society, you have to do it exactly how they want you to do it, or you're not on the Historical Society. But being on it has a lot of benefits and things you can do. You know, people they think that these people are just raking in money. And it's like, actually, these people are struggling to keep it open. They're struggling to keep the lights on. They're struggling, you know, they're working they're working all day. Then they come home and let you in and give you a tour. And then the next day they have to clean it up, get it ready, and still go to work. It is not, it is not an easy job to own a location, and it is not a cheap one at all. And I know people now who they watch what I do, they see what I do, they hear me talk. And so now what's happened is people are starting to go, I never thought of that. They're stopping complaining. I'm like, you wouldn't be able to do this without these people. So you better respect them and understand that, because it's either that. I've watched locations just close down because they can't stay open anymore. It's sad, very sad. So.
And since we still do have time, why don't you share a little bit of information about the location that you're at, and then where people can find it and how they can book it if they want to.
Yes. So if you look up the 1889 McIntyre Villa on Facebook, that is the location I'm at. If you look up, you can follow me on Facebook. I'm full on friends, but you can follow me and, you know, follow Eventbrite and whatever. I have a lot of, you know, different events here as well. But this location, so the reason we had it on a Monday night is because 100 years ago yesterday, there was a suicide in this house. And his name was Charles Donovan. So he came home from the war. He was eating dinner with his family one day, and then he just went upstairs, and at 8:30 at night, he shot himself in the head upstairs, and it took 2 hours for him to die. Very morbid. But yep, here we were yesterday going, let's talk to Charles. And the reason we kind of pick out Charles is because when I first started coming here, I did an EVP session. And I got Donovan, and I was like, Stephanie, who's Donovan? And she goes, oh, that's the last name of the guy who killed himself. And that was before I knew. So, you know, and so he always interacts. If you call him out, he'll interact. This location, I have seen apparitions. I've seen shadow figures. This location is super legit. It looks beautiful, but it is incredibly haunted. It's amazing. So.
Perfect. And where can people, I know you mentioned you're full on Facebook friends, but where can they find you exactly? What would your ID be on Eventbrite or?
Under Eventbrite, it's Christie Williams. But if you find, it's probably easier to find my Facebook page. If you have a hard time finding that, Parafriends Events is another one. I'm attached to that too. I do that with a friend of mine. And so, but if you go to Christie Ayers, like even on the top of my page, it's pinned to the top, all like just a list of all the events. If you click on any one of those, it'll take you right to my Eventbrite. So, but I'm super hoping to get down and do some stuff in Florida. I have had so many people say, can you come to Florida? Florida and Texas. Those are the places. So those are where I'm looking into. And I think I froze.
Leigh Weisensel's psychic medium is a medical intuitive that specializes as a body code practitioner.
As an energy healer, Ellie offers additional services that allow her modalities to be intertwined with energetic healing. Within your subconscious lies information that knows everything about you and why you deal with specific conditions. The subconscious can be considered the blueprint to your entire body. With Ellie working physically with your subconscious mind, we detect what negative emotions are trapped and where they are stored within the body that is causing you your emotional and physical pain. This work is designed to remove imbalances and correct them energetically, getting to the root cause of why you have your condition, to help balance your body so it may heal itself. Your body is infinitely wise and wants to be in balance. The body code is not only gentle for humans, but it is also a gentle process to help animals. For more information, contact Ellie Weisensell at the website below.
Hey everyone, sorry about that. We had some tech issues, and I know we were getting ready to close out with Christie, and she was telling everyone where you can find her. I will also make sure that I get all of her information up on my Facebook page, Exploring the Paranormal Show. And one thing I do want to have you mention is you were talking about all these great tours and events you had. Do you mind just running through a couple of the dates so people who are in the area can try to look it up and find you?
Yes. The one that I'm most looking forward to right now actually will be here at Becatir Villa. And that is with Richard Decepp and Sam Beltrusis. They're both authors. They're both part of some TV shows that were in the works. And that is November 20th. I have Seven Sisters Ghost Tour. There's just a bunch of, there's like 6 or 7 dates. God, it's so hard to remember all this off the top of my head. I'll be in Kentucky at Scarefest. So on that, I want to say we're going to do Drunken Oracle on the 20th. If you just follow the Drunken Oracle page, it's just watching it online. But it's a lot of fun. And this one's going to be like crazy fun. So that's coming up. God, I'm trying to think of what else. I have a bunch of stuff coming up. So in March and July, I will be doing events at Hotel Josephine and the Lake House. And they're one right after the other. So if you, because probably a lot of you live closer to Florida, but if you come out, you have a place to stay for the night too. And it's like, I want to say it's $120 a night. For each place. So for the price of a hotel room, you get the hotel room plus the ghost hunt, plus all the snacks and stuff we bring. So that's definitely a good time to just make a weekend out of it. So we do that a lot over there because they own, the Lake House was just on Ghost Hunters this last season. So.
Yep. And Aurora, she said that her events are on Eventbrite, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. All of them are there. I think there's one that I'm doing December 3rd at Hotel Josephine, but they made the tickets for it. But you can look up Hotel Josephine. Again, I have the link to the ticketing on my page. So it's all right at the top of my page.
Okay, perfect. And I'll make sure to get those shared as well so everybody can see it.
Thank you so
Anything else you want to include before we?
There is one thing that I forgot because it's something I'm starting. I've been kind of doing it more with Richard here, but the Haunted Charities events, if you see a Haunted Charities event come up, that is me. And, locations typically do they donate the location, but just know that 100% of those proceeds go to a local charity. And that's just the most important thing that you need to know. I pay for my own gas, any cost that it incurs, myself and whoever does it with me, and a location. They take care of the costs and every dime. So if they are a little more expensive, it is because all of it is going to charity, all of it. So.
Okay. And then Jeff wants to know real quick before you go, where are your produced videos located at?
So they are on the Drunken Oracle YouTube. I just throw everything on there. So yeah, you can watch everything on there.
Okay. And I'll make sure I get that link up there as well for you.
If you want to just spend your Saturday watching me be a drunk idiot, there you go.
Some people are probably writing down notes for blackmail.
Yeah, probably. It's all out there anyway. Good luck. I have nothing to lose.
Well, thank you for taking part of this morning to talk to me. It's definitely great to see you face to face.
I know, right? I was like, God, I didn't realize you've been friends on Facebook that long. So
yeah, it was when I joined Brian's team out in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you know him.
If he's watching this, he's going to kill me, but I can't get rid of him. I moved to Florida. He followed, and he moved about an hour from here.
That's crazy. Yeah, I need to go see him. So that I need to do. But I think you froze again on us. So yeah, you're having a rough day over there with that. See, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not in the comments. So that's a thing too.
Oh, you there?
Yep, I'm here. I'm like,
You.
back.
I don't. We still have crazy internet after the hurricane came through. We're still not up and running properly. So it's.
Well, I'm glad to see you were in a place. Like, did your home get affected or anything like that?
No, we got the wind because it came right up the highway past our house, but we really didn't get any of the rain. So we just had a lot of our entire entrance to the complex was blocked by trees, and we didn't have power for several days.
Well, I'm glad you guys made it okay. I know the people in Casadega didn't have power for like a week.
Yeah.
I'm actually not sure if they still do. I haven't really seen anything from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm a terrible friend. I should check in. So I don't know.
No, but yeah, definitely. When you go to Casadega, let me know, because Brian will probably swing by my house and we'll drive up and enjoy an event over there, because that's not too far from where I'm at.
Yeah, I kind of want to do candlelight tours around town. So that's what I'm looking into now. I'm looking into the history and all that. So that it can just be a fun time. I'd love to do them in the museum, but I don't think the museum is big enough to handle that. However, people should still check it out because it's super cool. So.
Definitely. Okay. Well, thank you again for joining us. And I will talk to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Hope you guys enjoyed our guest. Sorry about all the tech issues. We are going to take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, hopefully my computer lasts long enough for us.
This is WLTK-DB Talk Radio.
Come see our new station shop for some amazing top quality merchandise. There is something for everyone, like blankets, electronics, clothing, and much more. Head on over to WLTK-DB.com and click Shop to show your support by sporting our logo. The WLTK-DB Station Shop at WLTK-DB.com. Paranormal Talk is our business. And business is good. Want to see your video here? Sponsor WLTK-DB Talk Radio and watch us make that happen. With your paid sponsorship of $80, you receive a professional produced audio, video, and banner placement on our station. Not only does your sponsorship air during our live shows, but also replayed on our podcast and heard by hundreds of like-minded people. Visit WLTK-DB.com to get started and find out just how hard we work to get you noticed.
The truth is here and now on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.
Hey everyone, sorry about all the technical issues. Our internet still, I thought it was under control, but apparently it keeps going in and out. So I'm going to try to get through everything I don't want to say as fast as I can, because we still have about 30 minutes to go. But this way, if I do lose connection again, you'll have all the information that you need. So I really hope you guys enjoyed Christie. I think she is absolutely amazing. I love how she thinks outside of the box when it comes to paranormal investigating. I know a lot of people, I've had a couple messages come through on my phone during the call or during her interview saying that I can't believe she goes alone on investigations. That's not safe. It's one of those things where, like she had said, she has someone outside the location running security. So she is secure from people. And then when it comes to being safe against the paranormal, I'm going to actually do a show on that coming up in the future. But it's what you believe in. She believes she's safe. She knows how to handle herself. She knows how to do things. So I personally, even though I don't know if I could do it alone, and it's mostly because you never know what could happen, but she does have that person on site with her. So it is kind of, you know, she is doing it the right way, but still doing it alone. And so I hope you guys enjoyed the fact that she's doing all these tours. I will get them up on our Facebook page. And then talking about tours, I know I had mentioned during my call with her, she is super cool. I've been following her and know people who know her, and she's great. She's amazing. And I don't think she would ever do anything to harm herself or anyone else in the paranormal field, which is absolutely great. But I had mentioned during the show that I had a call with Ray with Flumery Promotions later on today. Hopefully that goes well, because I am working on several different things where I'm going to be attending events coming up soon. I have several different things going on, especially I want to do, once I can fly again, I'm going to head back out to Vegas and possibly do a book tour and some events out there. So keep an eye open for that. We're in the process of talking to do some events in John's Pass, which is Madeira Beach. They used to have a ghost tour down there, but they're no longer in operation. So I'm looking to I don't really want to take over what they did, but I kind of want to do something there. Casadega, like Christie said, is an absolute amazing place. They are very picky on who they let in to do their tours and who they let in to do events and investigations there. So the fact that they're letting her do that is just absolutely just shows how great she is and what she does. So make sure you're constantly staying in tune with my Facebook pages and all of that to stay up to date with the latest events and happening. And I wanted to share is but I forgot to while she was on there, and I'm going to be calling you out, Jeff, is when she was doing her drunken oracle. All I could think about is how Jeff does his tarot or his fortune telling. I'm going to have Jeff on the show one time, and or I need to get you on the show too. But Jeff, I'm just going to leave it there unless he wants to say what he does. But his fortune telling is very interesting, and we're going to have to do a show with Jeff on here so he can tell everyone's fortunes while we're live. Now, one thing we talked about briefly was her doing the investigations alone and protecting herself. I had mentioned that what you do is your own personal preference. Drunken fortune cookies, exactly. That's where I was going with that. Those of you who know me and have followed me for a while know that I take more of a magical, Wiccan, pagan approach to how I do things and how I protect myself on investigations. And for today's paranormal tool tip that I have is I wanted to talk about, and it goes along with the fact that I had the hurricane that just came through recently. I put a little bowl out and I collected some water, and because I have moon water, sun water, storm water, rainwater, beach water, you name it, I have jars all over the place filled with water. And I wanted to talk about the many benefits of collecting storm water. Of course, it doesn't have to be hurricane water, but it can be thunderstorm. The stronger the storm, the stronger the properties, I personally believe, in the water. And if you think about it, storms are very powerful, and they come in, they destroy things, as we've seen down in the Fort Myers area, and a lot of people even try to protect themselves from storms. But if you harness the power of the storm water, you can actually enhance your personal protection for you. And basically different ways to use it. When you think about it real quick before I talk about the different ways to use it, it's basically you're harnessing the power of the storm in the water. You want to, after you've bottled it, or even once you've collected it, you can sprinkle it around the perimeter of your home, and that'll protect your property. So anything negative trying to cross it, as long as you have that intention behind that storm water, the negativity is not going to cross with them. You can protect your garden in a similar manner, and just putting it around the garden. You can use it on windowsills, doorways. I've seen people who've taken the water after they've collected and personally blessed it, and they put it on their front doormat. to protect themselves. You can also use it. You can use it to cleanse crystals if you want to. Jewelry. A lot of people use it in different spells if you want to go that route. You can also, I'm trying to read here real quickly my notes because I wanted to make sure I covered everything. And it's also, if you're planting new plants, you can use it to plant your new plants. You can use it to water your plants. And I mean, granted, the plants get it outside, but you have your inside plants. Use it to water the inside plants. It's very, very beneficial powers and attributes to stormwater that if you're lucky enough to collect it during a hurricane like I was, it's going to be very, very strong. So, oh, yes, I love the water element aura. That one, I feel like, you know, like you, I'm very connected to the water. I find myself more at home on a boat in the ocean. I'm going to pull up. There we are. Sorry, guys. I wanted to talk about the Indian River hauntings real quick. We had discussed that briefly in the show, and I'm sorry about all the ins and outs. I hope they get our internet and everything in order for future shows so this doesn't happen. But my friend, Larry Lawson, he actually has been on several of my other shows with me, and I'm going to try to get him on this one. It's just tough being in the morning with him and his schedule. But his tours focus on the paranormal activity that surrounds what I mean, granted, you have St. Augustine, definitely one of the most haunted locations, but people don't realize Indian River County, which is Vero Beach, Fort Pierce, or not Fort Pierce is St. Lucie County. The Vero Beach, Sebastian, Wabasso, and all that area is very, very haunted. And it's mostly, a lot of it's attributed to the galleon ships that sunk off the coast. And they're still pulling up a whole bunch of different things. Artifacts and gold is still coming up from there. People are finding crystals and gems on the beach. And a lot of, I mean, all these ships, what they believe, you know, at the time had perished in a hurricane and sank just off the shores of Vero Beach and Sebastian. And the museums where these artifacts are hosted at are haunted. There's 2 museums throughout the area. And these 2 museums, just absolutely, I'm going to actually share pictures I have. I think it's Mel Fisher's museum. Amazing place. I definitely pick up on a lot of energy when I walk into that location. And then the downtown Vero Beach area along the boardwalk is very haunted. And Larry just describes, and I'm actually going to talk to Larry soon about getting more information so I can share it with you guys, because he has the inside scoop as to what happens. And I just have the stories that I've heard. So, and it's just very interesting. So if you guys are ever in Florida, you know, let me know. I would definitely like to take you on one of Larry's tours, or hopefully on a tour over in the St. Petersburg area, which is where John's Pass is located at. And unfortunately, because I'm having issues with my internet, I don't want to keep you guys hanging and keep going in and out. So I am going to cut it short today. And next week, I will be back live at 10 a.m. Eastern, and I have a guest, Nicole Gaspard. She is an author, and we're going to be talking about her books and her personal experiences in the paranormal field. She's an amazing person. She's also a radio host. I absolutely love her and adore her. Looking forward to having her. And real quick, you guys can find me on Facebook at Heather Leigh, or Dr. Heather Leigh is on my Facebook page, or Exploring the Paranormal show, as well as my team, Exploration Paranormal. All of those are the places where I post everything that you guys will see and hear. I still need to post Joe's stuff from the last time, but I'll have information on my last guest, Joe Frankie, and all the information you need on Christie, as well as Aurora. I did see the message from you saying that you had some events or some tours as well. So you'll see a list of all recommendations. Apologize for all the issues today, but I thank you, and I hope to see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us.
The truth is here and now. on WLTK-DB Talk Radio at WLTK-DB.com.